of the Crude Oil Theft and the Management Committee of the National Economic Council and the Governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, is assuring Nigerians that cases of crude oil theft are being addressed with a view to end the menace. He was addressing journalists shortly after a meeting of the committee in Abuja. Senator Uzodinma says he and his team are working on a blueprint that will increase crude oil production in the country in order to improve the economy of the country. Take a listen to him.
We've been able to do a lot of fact findings. We've made a lot of consultations. We spoke to critical stakeholders, and we are beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. It is our hope that at the end of this assignment, we'll put together a report that will be very bold and courageous, that will be useful to NEC. And if implemented, we'll stop this monster called crude oil theft.
From crude oil theft, let's go into power sector corruption. So President Bola Tinubu today suspended the managing director of the Rural Electrification Agency and some members of his team from office. The presidency, in a statement released by Mr. Ajuri Ngilale earlier today, revealed that in the light of new findings unearthed during a comprehensive investigation into the financial activities of the Rural Electrification Agency, the REA, President Bola Tinubu has approved the indefinite suspension of the managing director and the CEO of the Rural Electrification Agency, Mr. Ahmed Salijo Ahmad, alongside 3 executive directors of the agency from office. They are Mr. Olani Alabane Chufo, the Executive Director, Corporate Services, and Mr. Baraka Sajo, the Executive Director, Technical Services, and Sadato Belgore, Executive Director, Rural Electrification Fund. The President has also now ordered a wider investigation into the conduct of the aforementioned officials in a fraudulent expenditure amounting to over 1.2 billion naira over the past 2 years, and some of which has already been recovered by anti-graft agencies. By this directive of the President, he has appointed to serve in the new management team of the Rural Electrification Agency some persons in active capacity. They include some of them, of course, will be bringing their names to you in the course of China's television news track at the top of the hour. So stay with us. But let's make sense of these for you. Some of the breaking news that we're getting about the decision of President Tinubu to suspend these officials of the Rural Electrification Agency amidst what has become a major worrying and concerning issue of power outage in the country over the last 2 weeks. I'm being joined tonight by a professor of energy law, Professor Yemi Oke. He joins us virtually from Lagos, and at some point in the program, we'll be bringing into the conversation someone who is also an energy expert of the former presidential candidate of the YPP in the 2023 presidential election, Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, who is here with me in our Abuja studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Let me take on Professor Yemi Oke. Give us an understanding of what is going on. Is it a core sector? We've been battling to unravel what happened in the power sector industry as far back as during the Obasanjo era, and there's been a back and forth and a debate over the money spent in that regime. Now we are hearing another 1.2 billion naira. Take note, Prof, it is not money that they are looking for. It's money already recovered by the anti-graft agency, and they're now investigating a wider investigation into what has transpired on all of these allegations. What are your first view on this?
Thank you very much, Shim. I'm actually speaking from Abeokuta. In here. Unfortunately, the power sector stood for challenges, and of course, corruption is one. And I'm glad because generally this is for Nigeria to start to take some big decisions. And I can see the current administration trying to take some difficult decisions so that we can start to get the country working. For instance, Rural Electrification Agency had been emerged with fraud, similar fraud as far back as 2015, 2016. There was a documented fraud, which of course formed the subject of series of the media and writings by some of us. I don't want to mention it. And that led to the suggestion that we can't even be talking of Rural Electrification Agency or Rural Electrification Fund when the subject of that agency is an item that is for the state under the whole electricity, electric power sector reform act. REA is not due to corruption, and I want to put is documented, is there. Google it, back up until 2015-16, there was a documented fraud in the Rural Electrification Agency involving one honorable member in the House of Reps on a major project. Rural Electrification Agency surely has not have been a first instance, is a misplacement of authority in the power sector. The name rural connotes the close communities to community, the closest level of government to the community, which is the local government and state. We have advocated that Rural Electrification Agency should be founded, it should be scrapped, and given to states to manage state and local governments should be more charged with policy. And that Rural Electrification Fund, the pool of funds for that agency should be given to state government so that state government can manage with the local government so that we can have electricity at the level of rural communities. Because that's not an item that should be the concern of the federal government. A whole lot of issues with Rural Electrification Agency, and it was topmost in the 20-point agenda that suggested to the current administration as to what ought to be done in the power sector. It's never been transparent. It's been dropped for the boys. Rural Electrification Agency has been going about installing solar panels and solar what have you in communities, things that ordinarily would have been done by local government or state. So if you have excess funds at the level of the federal government, the funds should be ceded to the respective state government so that we can do a better job, including implementation and supervision. Rural Electrification Agency is a misnomer in a federated structure. And under the Electric Power Sector Reform Act that has been repealed, we said rural electrification could use electricity off the national grid. And by the old law, off-grid ought to be within the purview of states as of assembly. Now that we have the new Electricity Act, I was surprised that we still have Rural Electrification Agency and Rural Electrification Fund in the Act. And those are some of the issues I have with the Electricity Act. Yeah. But the Act has changed some of the laws that I'm very comfortable with. But retaining REA and REF as a federal agency is a misnomer, and it won't lead to this kind of monumental fraud. I'm sure a lot will be discovered.
Yeah, if there's anything like Rural Internet Agency, maybe the one that is superintending your internet service in Abeokuta, we need to scrap it because we're getting not a very good connection with you, Prof. But just hold on.
The federal government wouldn't know my Alabata community where I was born, so you have a university there.
Prof, apologies. I don't mean to call your rural area rural on national television, but just.
The state government and local government should be able to do a good job. But from time to time, monumental fraud has been perpetrated at REA and under REF.
All right, Prof, give me a moment, please, because the connection is not quite solid, but I'm hoping that the engineers might be able to advise on how we can get a better communication in the next few minutes. Just so they'll work with you in a moment. Prof, stay with us. The engineers will contact you now so that they can fix that. But let me turn to Mr. Malik Ado-Ibrahim. When you heard, and you heard what Professor Oke is saying there about whether or not that agency is still relevant at this time. And the kind of corruption, and we were having a banter over this before we came on the air, and you were saying that this is not new and this has been going on. What do you know about this kind of situation going, especially in a sector that has been bedeviled by argument and debate of corruption that has held us back and put Nigeria into darkness for years?
For me, it's rather unfortunate that we're going back to a debate we had before the elections. I think we've been on this conversation. We're still trying to fix a modern problem with archaic solutions. We haven't turned the page as to what do we do to make power work in the country. Power is the hub of industrialization, of modernity, of better life. And when you hear enunciations from the Ministry of Power, when you hear about what's happening at REA, nothing has changed. We haven't had any kind of sort of concrete direction from the federal government, from this administration, saying we are going to hold power as our paramount drive for the future. And that's what needs to happen. So this dissection of rural electrification or states having electricity, it's still not going to work, because the fundamental thing is we generate a lot more than we can distribute. And what we can distribute is only distributed from sort of historical infrastructure. We haven't modernized. We're trying to get Siemens to do certain things. And there's modernity that can help us embed power where it's needed, using renewables, using storage, using hydro. And we seem to always have closed a blind eye to it and not take that next step. And other countries around the world are doing this without even a thought. We know it happens. We travel around the world, we see it, but nobody wants to implement it. And I do believe Prof was right. Rural electrification makes us sound like we're going back into the Stone Age. Let's just get electrification right. Let's get the main pot of where power is going to be delivered to the country centralized. Those that need to be embedded also need to be embedded in the communities where power is needed. And we should have safe zones for industry, where power is developed and delivered so industry can come in, take some of the pressure off the grid. These are things that we don't need a committee for. It's formal committee for everything. We don't need a committee. We know what the problem is. We are just blessed with so many people like myself that are involved in different forms of electricity. We should be brought together, sat down, give some kind of direction to government, because if you put somebody in the oil and gas sector to run your power sector, don't expect anything other than, I know gas, I know oil, and that's what I know, and there's nothing else that's going to change. We haven't put the right people in the right places. Winner takes all is what happens when you win in the elections in Nigeria, but it doesn't allow those with ideas to come forward, even if we're from another party, to sit down and proffer ideas. This country belongs to all of us, and we should stop using that excuse as to why we're not talking.
I will come to some very critical scenario relating to how we can, the ramifications of revolutionizing the sector. But let's dwell for a second or so on these move by the president to suspending, and one will wonder how this went on, and when he's called for a wider investigation into all of this, and those who believe that this has been going on for a while.
Yes. Well, what happened at REA was public knowledge even before the elections. President Tinubu was just taking that step that the last administration did not take. REA was all over the news. I mean, anybody can historically check this. A lot of sort of filthy allegations of money being placed in different accounts, the head of the agency not doing the right thing. But the steps that were taken today were, steps that needed to have happened within the last administration. Anytime you're suspected of something, proper justice should be done, and policies of government are always going to be tried. It's nice to see somebody has taken that step. There was an investigation done and suspension you're innocent until proven guilty. But this is something that is an open secret to everybody, that it hasn't been run well. It's granted money. This is money from the UN. $380 million a year goes into this agency. Doesn't come from the government's coffers. And so we're sitting there understanding that, well, maybe this money is sort of an invisible amount of money that doesn't come from the budget of this country. We really need a structured approach to the kind of loans we get or grants we get as a country to help sectors, whether it's food, in the agro sector, we see it in power, and we're going to see it in many other sectors where government is not sitting at the table.
Do you agree with Prof that we do not need a rural electrification
Absolutely,
agency?
100%.
Why?
Because power is not something you ruralize, it's something you generalize. For me, it's a human right. We need power. And it is and must be the fundamental goal of this administration and any administration that comes into the ruling this great country of ours. You don't stay in power if you don't give your people power. And power is what's going to move this nation where we want to be. And if you start having corruption and mismanagement and all these things key into it, then we're going nowhere in a hurry.
We've had 2 weeks of darkness, literally, in the heat of Harmattan. The heat is really so intense,
yes.
And I mean, exhaustion. I mean, name it. The kind of suffering that you can, or hardship that you face from not having electricity. How much of a voodoo do you think has surrounded power generation? And when we think that that sector has been devolved, such that the state government now, see what is happening in Abia State, for example, with Professor Bath Inachi, and those in that arena are saying, oh, for the first time, we have uninterrupted power supply for 48 hours. It was like a miracle of some sort. Yeah. And those who were born in my generation, if you're at least less than 50 years, you can say boldly that you have experienced power outage all your life. Yes. That's what we have seen in this country. And we have experienced in the over 60 years of Nigeria's independence, we have had blackouts more than we've had stable electricity. Yes. How much of a worry does this give you?
When I ran for office last year, I will say that that was the cornerstone of what I wanted to see this country fix first before we can fix everything else. You know, when we travel outside, we take these things for granted. And we're not really looking at how these things were set up by governments. They maintained by governments. You look at South Africa, the Afrikaans government, with all its ills, had power that's working. The moment the ANC came in and they didn't put the right people in the right places, their ESCOM is like NEPA was, and it's probably going to be worse in the next couple of years. We have, I mean, this government inherited what it has. What's happening in Abuja is not because of what it did in 12 or 8 months. It's what successive governments have not done that has led us to situations where around the country we're still dealing with 4,000 megawatts, producing 12,000 and jettisoning 8,000 to waste. We have opportunities to store power, to deliver power where it's needed. There's modernity in the power sector globally. And our country just seems to be able to turn a blind eye to things and say, you know, maybe the next guy will fix it. It took 20 years for the miracle in Naba to happen. 20 years. 180 megawatts. We produced 180 megawatts in South Africa in 3.5 months.
And I was going to come there, that, I mean, a lot of people perhaps who do not know Malik and what he does privately, I mean, as a private citizen, is part and parcel of intergovernment, some nationals that are helping other countries to generate power. He's helped countries. He's worked in Turkey and South Africa, as much as we have read. You know better. And if you have helped other countries to get their power sector working, why are you not helping Nigeria, Malik?
I've done my part in presenting my case to the wonderful people in Nigeria to understand that you need a modern head for modern problems. I will tell you one miracle that has happened, and I don't believe it, and I have to keep thinking to myself, where did this man come from? The governor of Niger State reached out to me a couple of weeks ago in London and said, we need to talk. I'm the power state. I need to fix this problem. How do we do it? I've been in this business in Nigeria since I moved here 11 years ago. That was the first time. And not only did he ask for solutions, he engaged me directly in what those solutions should do, how he can recover the investment he wants to put, and what industries can we tag on to this power. I was dumbfounded. And when I see what he's doing in the agro sector, this is a man who understands that if I'm going to have all these tractors, if I'm going to deliver food to the citizens of Nigeria, I need power, and I need to have the cold chain ready. I need to have preservation of my food. He's thinking ahead of the I think the president's inaugurating his tractor delivery tomorrow. Look at what he's doing. He's already thinking 2 steps ahead, saying, I need power and I need it quickly. I can't wait 20 years for 180 megawatts. Can you deliver me 50 megawatts by the end of this year? Yes, Your Excellency. Let's do it. And we're willing to put our efforts into making sure. I'm from the Middle Belt. This is where the food basket of Nigeria starts.
What is your expertise like? What have you done in the power sector so Nigerians can have an understanding? In the private sector in this country, what are the possibilities? How many countries have you helped in generating power for?
To date, 18 countries, from very modern countries like Turkey that are fully industrialized to countries like Congo DRC where we're putting power into the mines. This is not witchcraft. This is not some kind of imaginary thing. We do this as a living. There are probably 5 companies in the world that do what we do to put power where it's needed, embed it, and give results. My dear country doesn't believe in its own profit, so we get to sit there and just watch,
But you've experimented in the private sector.
Yes, we built one of the most modern dairy factories in the world today in Adamawa State. Since 2019, this factory has been running off renewables from my company, storage and solar. Hasn't had one day down, produces close to 150,000 liters of milk a day, generating tremendous income for those in that area, Mayobalwa and the Sebore region of Adamawa State. We see the multiplier effects. And I'll tell you something, that thing has been on and running since 2018. Not one government official from the last administration or this administration, whether in power or in the agro sector, has gone to have a look of what modernity can do, not just for an industry, but for the areas, the Fulani farmers that are now not moving their cows because we have to produce, take milk. I mean, you've got to sit down with Aminu Yako and listen to a young man with a brain that has a vision and implemented it with such poise that people from around the world, I've taken Saudi Arabian groups to go there and see it, I've taken companies from Turkey there to go in, and we've replicated what he has done and what we have done with him in foreign countries. I mean, for me, this is where we lose ourselves. We're not enjoying what we are.
So, but the sector has been liberalized by the signing of the law by the president, and one would wonder that should be a new horizon, isn't it?
Okay, so in September of last year, I was the first company in Nigeria to be given a license for 100 megawatts of renewable power, storage and solar to be put into Adamawa State as well, to put onto the grid. To get a power purchase agreement is all we need. To get to see the governor of the state was easy. To get the land lease, the NERC, to get it done. To now sit with government at the federal level, to have the Minister of Power or the bulk trader to sit down with you, it's like voodoo. It's almost impossible. So we have to privately deliver this power. We're not asking for government funds. Take the power. Now we're supplying the power to the West African power pool. This deal we just signed a couple of weeks ago. Nigeria is not going to take it, but the rest of Africa is going to enjoy what we build in Nigeria to supply the rest of West Africa. For me, there's a nonsense.
That looks like a curse, though.
Well, we're cursed in many things, and leadership is one of them.
Malik,
and unless we sit down...
I did not invite you to talk about power, interestingly. This came as a breaking news, and now we're talking about power, a topic that we never planned to talk about. But yet, little that I know about you, it's allowed us to delve into it. But we'll be getting more. Professor Yemi, okay, he's still with us. Perhaps the ruralness in your location will allow us to speak to you clearly when we return from this break. We'll take a break, everyone. But when we come back, we'll look at the approach of the Tinubu government, how we can solve some of these problems. If we solve power, the electricity problem in this country, maybe, just maybe, we are on the right track in moving forward and faster as a giant of Africa that we are. We'll be right back, everyone. Stay with us. Thank you so much, everyone. We didn't stop the conversation right here in the studio as soon as we went on that break, because the power problem is what we can get over and fix if there is the willingness and the political will. Yeah, there's some part of that a lot of people will say we've taken a step forward, by unbundling, taking it from the exclusive legislative list and putting on the concurrent legislative list. Well, that is a first step. What about the transmission? What about distribution? What about generation? How do we overcome some of the problems and some of the breaking news that we're following for you? The action of President Tinubu today by suspending the MD and some EDs in the Rural Electrification Agency. We're talking tonight with Professor Yemioke, who is a professor of energy law. He's been speaking with us, albeit some technical issues that we've been experiencing, speaking with him, but we'll be able to talk with him for a moment. And also an energy expert and man of many parts, Malik Ado-Ibrahim, the presidential candidate of the YPP in the 2023 general elections. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us on the program. So I look at the issue. And for you, it looks so simple because I think this is what you do for a living. And you've done it, you've made successes as a private sector person in several other countries. And the likes of Professor Bath in Naji believed so much that they can also make it happen. And we've seen it happen in Abia. You have your testimonial in Adamawa, and you're also generating power in Nigeria, which is not appreciated and tapped into, and Côte d'Ivoire. Far away Côte d'Ivoire will be benefiting from power that is going to be generated right here in Nigeria. Yes. That is an irony. How do we get power fixed? If you were President Tinubu today, what would you do?
I would make this the cornerstone of my legacy and my gift to Nigeria, to fix power. Everything else is secondary. If you fix power, insecurity goes away. If you fix power, inflationary issues go away. If you fix those two, Nigerians begin to feel more secure and confident. But here's the crux of the matter. If you do not enunciate your plan, if you're not delivering that with confidence, today Nigerians are hopeless. We're not being given the benefit of your thought, Mr. President. You need to enunciate either yourself or get an adequate spokesperson that can speak your mind. We should have press conferences as a matter of urgency. Nigerians were fixing this. This is my plan over the next 3 years. I will do X, Y, and Z.
So you think they're not speaking enough?
They're not. We don't know what the plan is.
But they're selling hope.
It seems like we're in a country where there's a mental issue. Don't tell the people, let them just go blind. And we go into the darkness. Now, in the darkness, so many things happen. The narrative of what he might be planning that we don't hear has been taken over by people who want to make him look bad. This is not leadership. Leadership means you come out. Look, Nigeria, you win, you take all. Winner takes all in government. But if you fail, you take it all too. So you cannot expect the narrative to be taken by other people. You're the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have some of the most talented people on earth in this country. On earth. Bring them to bear. Call an emergency. Have this be your breaking point. It's enough. I will fix this. I will give you 1,000 megawatts per year for the next 3 years, embedded power, so the rural electrification works at the federal level, not an agency, at the federal level. You use modernity. We're blessed with sun. Use storage. Use solar. Put it into communities where they can praise your name and your legacy. But we're sitting there putting people who do not understand how to...
So you're not impressed so far in the last 9 months of this government?
You know, to be impressed... would be a very difficult thing for me to be in. Unfortunately, that's just the way I feel. I'm not looking for someone to impress me. I'm looking for somebody who is going to help Nigeria get better, get off its knees. And in order to do that, we need to fix the simple things first. You don't put your house on the foundation that's rocky.
You cannot say electricity is simple, Mr. Ibrahim. Because if it's simple, over 40 years of pains and agony about we generating the kind of power that we need, we don't find it. That's not a simple one. If several governments have attempted fixing power problems, the power issues in Nigeria, yet we are here today, and we're still in darkness.
Okay, so let me refresh your mind. How many power professionals have been Minister of Power in this country? Only Batinaji, and it's only him now, 20 years later, that has fixed the problem that he started 20 years ago. It took him 20 years to build 180 megawatts. We built 200 megawatts in 3 months. I have no understanding of the situation. It doesn't make sense. If you want to fix a situation, go for modern results, modern proven technology. We're still looking at, with all due respect to what's in Abia State, it is ancient technology. It's ancient. You're still going to have to find a source, of power to power those power stations. We wake up every morning and the sun's above our heads. Our melanin is this color because the sun is above our heads. Utilize what God gives you so that you can make a better country.
So you do not think that gas, because there are those who believe that getting the energy, the power problem fixed, we need the gas that we have in abundance to be able to push it.
It doesn't work that way. You need an energy mix. You need everything to contribute to fixing Nigeria. Whether it's gas, hydro, geothermal, it doesn't make any difference. You must fix that power. But if you have a power source that is interruptible by those who want to do you harm, I don't care how much gas you have, you can cut it off. 50 megawatts was put in Borno State, supposedly, for Maiduguri to have power. Till today, NNPC, for whatever reason, decided in one of the hottest places on this earth, where the sun, the irradiation is over 2,700 per meter square, you want to put a gas delivery of power into Maiduguri. You'd have to be on top of some crazy mountain thinking you can skydive. It is asinine to think that when you have a God-given, easy, free source of power, you cannot deliver to a country or to a people that need that power, and you're looking for excuses and ways. It doesn't work that way.
So the solution is right before our eyes, and we cannot see it.
The solution is there, but we need to bring everything together. You have to harness it.
If I was President Tinubu today, which I'm not, we use glasses, but doesn't make us the same. And I say, Malik Ado-Ibrahim, come be my Minister of Power, and I give you 3 months to change power sector around. Would you be able to do it?
I wouldn't take the job.
Why not?
Well, first of all, 3 months you can't do it. First of all, you need a plan. And in a plan, you need time to do the right thing. You have to look at where the sources of power, and then you decide, Mr. President, I can give you X, Y, and Z in this period of time. Now, let me go to Nigerian people and ask them for that time, because we are people. If you put them in the dark, look, sell hope to me. That's what I want as a country. Come out and tell me I will fix it. Don't come out and today it's this, and you've got this schizophrenic mindset of, I don't know where my government is. Tell me what you want me to do.
If the president fixed power today, it will be a hero, isn't it?
We wouldn't call it power, we'll call it tabat. We wouldn't. Look, this is 2024. What people are doing in 2024, sending people to space, robots to space, we're still trying to figure out how we take 12,000 to 230 million people. We can do this if we have a Marshall Plan for power. Mr. President, call the right people, talk to the right people, go and see what these people have done overseas.
But the Buhari government said, had partnership with Siemens in Germany. This government also had meetings with German government, and there were partnerships. In fact, the likes of Peter Obi went to Egypt to look at how the power sector works in that country. I thought we've learned enough to be able to fix our problem. Are you saying the Siemens option is not going to work?
Siemens is only going to deal with the transmission. It doesn't change anything. You're not going to get more power. And you're going to take that, it's going to take you 5 years. No administration has 5 years to waste. It doesn't have a day to waste. You must take really incredible measures to fix power in Nigeria. And believe me, as I speak to you today, I see it happen every single day. I'll even give, again, this Admirala yogurt in Adamawa. His power is nothing. He's taking it from the sun. His competitors are using generators. The price is going up every day. Who's making more money? This young man with the sophistication and the vision to look for renewables. Our country needs to take that kind of lesson. Let's not look at what they want to sell us. What's Siemens going to sell you? Old technology. What is Siemens doing today? It's turning to renewables. But it's going to sell you its old technology.
Biomass, there is solar.
So many. I ran an agency in the United Nations. Intergovernmental Renewable Energy Organization. And my job was to look at energy mixes. How do we bring renewables to help? This is the kind of mindset that you need to be able to engage in, but nobody wants to talk to you. I'm a Nigerian. I don't care what party I was in before. I'm a Nigerian.
Politics is in fact over. We're talking about the lives and livelihood of our people.
I have not met the Minister of Power because it's going to take me forever to try and figure that thing out. So I'll go private sector. I don't need the minister to build power. I don't need the minister to change the life of 7,000 people in Adamawa with one man who is under 40 years old, who has been able to make millionaires out of 7,000 people in the last 2 years. Now, He's made more millionaires than the government has generated. I guarantee you that. And these are Fulani herdsmen. You've got, if there was a national award, I want to give it to this guy. We are not looking at those that are, look, take any sector the government doesn't get involved in. Is it tech? Is it Nollywood? We are amazing. We are leading the world. We are unicorns.
So, but the moment the government puts their hand in it,
red tape will kill you. The environment that should enable you becomes the distraction. It can put 7 years to get a license for 100 megawatts. 7 years. It took me 6.5 weeks to get the same thing in South Africa for 200 megawatt hours. If you keep putting measures in the way of Nigerian innovators, you are doing yourself as a country a disservice.
Give me a moment, because I'm still coming back to you on the issue of security. That's another very strong area that you have expertise in. I'll talk to you about the economy and some other areas. But let me go back to Professor Yemi. Okay, I'm not sure if we have him on video right now, but if you can hear him. But Prof, you have studied the legal angles to the energy problems of this country. If you can tell us, I thought in my mind that with the new legal premise on energy in Nigeria, that we are headed somewhere. But it doesn't look like it is totality, is 100%. What else do we need to do?
Seun, the problem as amplified by Malik, to an extent, is essentially regulatory. Once you have privatized an entity, for instance, the power sector, the only job of the government is to regulate. And effective regulation is what will drive and bring about positive results in the sector. Malik complained about red tapeism, time wasting, taking years to get a license. These are regulatory issues. He had challenges with MBET and the PPA thing. Those are regulatory issues. And I would differ with him that the federal government has not been talking. That might not be correct, because we've seen the body language of the current administration showing positively the direction that the power sector ought to go. And one of the signs of seriousness that we want to reckon with is the fact that something went wrong in the Rural Electrification Agency and the government has acted decisively. And more we expect to follow. I agree with him on the energy mix, but I think the government shouldn't really be involved to that extent beyond effective knowledge-based sector governance. Before we had the Electricity Act of 2023, we had Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005. As Malik said, it took me almost 2 decades, myself and others, to tell the government and those who care to listen that the law was not a law intended to operationalize the power sector. By its name, it was a law meant to bring about sector reform. That was why it was Electric Power Sector Reform Act. Then since we are done with reforming, we needed a law to operationalize the power sector. And we had one. One of the first set of laws to be signed by President Muhammadu Buhari was the Electricity Act of 2023. Have we now operationalized the new Electricity Act? My answer is capital no. It might not be a perfect law, but most of the challenges we had with the old law had been taken care of. But some of the challenges that were not corrected is this Rural Electrification Agency. In my writings, in my advocacies for several 2 decades upward, I've been talking about the fact that we can't be having a Rural Electrification Agency or Rural Electrification Fund in a federated setting. Those could be ceded off to state government in partnership with the local government so that we can have something that works.
Yeah. All right. Let me for a moment, I'd like you to give me your final thoughts on the issue of power and where we need to go. You heard what Prof said. Unfortunately, I wish that we can see him on video. But then, give me your thoughts on what needs to be done urgently.
Well, a plan has to be had. Anything you do in life that's not planned properly, you're asking for vagaries and all sorts of things to come in and damage your direction. I think Mr. President needs to have an urgent meeting of all those innovators and private sector people to sit down with his minister and figure out what can we do, how can we do it, and when can we give Nigerians.
You don't think
power.
Mr. Adelabu, the minister, is on the right path?
I have no idea what path it is. Because if you do not tell the public what your path is, you're on your own. And so we are. Every Nigerian is an independent power producer. Every single one of us produces our own power. Government's job is that, and we're not doing it. So for me, I don't understand what power is in this country, because I have batteries in my home, I have batteries in my office, I run off the grid 24 hours a day. I don't know what the problem is. I don't. And those that are my customers don't have that same problem. We don't have escalating prices. We're using the sun to charge our homes and live at least a normal life. We need to take this into the public and give them that human right of power. And I think it's just opening their eyes, shine their eyes and let them see what this can do.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to take you to several other sectors, but it's a security that I'd like you to anchor on. And you've given options on how we can solve our security problems. You've talked about how we can maximize our satellite. We're talking about oil theft. We're talking about the high sea and how they're taking our crude everywhere, every day out of the shores of Nigeria. I mean, and you've talked to me about technologies that we can use. What do you think could be the solution? The NSA might be watching. Mr. Nuhurabad, who is, I guess, a very smart man in all sense. What do you think is a way out?
If there was a pill, I would love to be able to give it to the NSA to say we fix it. But every segment of our security is a bit old. It's archaic. Those that want to do us harm came from that system. They know what we can do. They don't know what we want to plan to do. And again, modernity takes Nigeria, just as it did from a tele-density of 1 million phone lines to over 100 and something million phone lines. We used modernity. We can use those same tools to claim our land. Look, if I know states where, and we all know states where things disappear and people are in the forest, but we can't find them. We don't know where these dens of iniquity are. But if you had thermal cameras on drones, you can pick them out, you can see them, you can form a plan, again with everything, a plan, and find those places.
And with our existing satellite?
Our satellite is not even functional. I'm sorry to say. We're using
our NICOMSAT.
Okay.
Does that amuse you in any way?
It amuses me because it doesn't.
We look like a funny country to you now because of the way we do things, isn't it?
We don't need to have that. We can use other people's things to do what we do. There's encryption on satellites that allow you to have your own backdoor to protect your people. We have ways in which we're doing. Since Mr. Ribado came in, you can see some things have changed, and it's really nice to be able to compliment somebody in the security arms. I like what our service chiefs are doing, but we haven't changed our mode of operation. It is predictable. We know what arms we have. We know how we go into strategy. We had people kidnapped in Kogi State from civil defense people there. How many people were protecting these Chinese people? We can go on.
I need to drag you back into this studio, and we need to do a lot of the talking. If you have time, please permit me to bring you back into the studio.
If your viewers will allow me.
Please,
to come back.
No. I will indulge them on this one because we have so much to talk about and tap into your knowledge. Thank you so much, Prince Malik Ado-Ibrahim, for talking to us. Professor Yemioke, an energy professor. Thank you so much indeed, gentlemen, for talking to us.